Hi, everyone. I'm going to give everyone just a few moments to get settled in and come on in. We have a bunch of people joining us, so just want to make sure everyone gets in all right before we jump into everything. But thank you so much for being here today. It looks like everyone's starting to filter in. So thank you again, everyone, for being here. This is our Living in Orange information session. So we're just going to be chatting today about kind of the student experience of living in our area. Obviously, there's a big piece of that kind of college experience is going to be the area you're living in and all of the opportunities that come with that. So I'm excited to be able to share a little bit about that with you, as well as some of our students today who are here to chat about their experiences. So I'll go ahead and start diving into everything. My name is Steele Viverette. I'm one of our undergraduate admission counselors here at Chapman. I'm also a Panther alum myself, so I also lived the student experience here in Orange. And now I've been working professionally with the office for about 3 years. So very excited to be here and very excited to just chat with you all a little bit today. While I was a student here, I majored in global communication and political science. I grew up in Virginia myself, so I was an out-of-state student originally. So I had a lot of fun coming to California and getting to explore the area. And I know Christina is also an out-of-state student. She grew up in Colorado, so I will go ahead and pass it over to her to introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be able to be giving my student perspective on this. Like Steele said, I'm also an out-of-state student. I grew up in Denver, Colorado. I'm studying health sciences currently on the pre-med track, hoping to be a physician one day. But I've also done a lot in the past 3 years, which is crazy to say. I cannot believe I'm a senior. It makes me so sad to be leaving beautiful Orange. But I played women's soccer. I was part of our student government association. I participated in research, basically try to dip my toe into everything. But I also work for the Office of Admission as a tour guide. So super excited to be chatting a little bit more about Orange with y'all. Also, want to introduce Ryan, who's one of the most important people that I've met in my time at Chapman. So yeah.
Hi guys, my name is Ryan. I'm a student here at Chapman. I'm a second year student, so I just finished my freshman year last year. So you have questions about the freshman experience? It's fresh in my mind. I'm from Riverside, California, so it's about an hour to an hour and a half-ish away from here. I work here also as a campus tour guide and an office assistant, along with being an admissions fellow. I'm involved in and part of the production crew for Chapman News and the Chapman Sports Broadcast Network. I'm also part of our Latinx club here on campus. And I do my best to go to a lot of different campus events and really stay involved in what's going on around here as well. Really excited to give my perspective on it as well. So, like I said, I'm from in-state, about an hour to an hour and a half away. So a little bit different than Christina and Steele's as well. But excited to be here.
Thank you both for being here. I do also want to mention that my amazing colleague Andrea is in the chat as well. So if you do have any questions, feel free to throw them into that chat. You can also use the Q&A feature. We will have some time at the end of the presentation for questions for any of the panelists here. So myself, Christina, or Ryan can answer those questions live as well and offer their insight. So feel free to either answer them or ask them in the chat or save them for that Q&A portion as well. But know that we want to make sure you get your questions answered. So I'm happy to keep this kind of conversational and make sure that anything that you guys want to know more about, we chat about. With that being said, as kind of an overview of what we'll cover, we'll start by chatting a little bit about what's nearby within that city of Orange that we're located in, as well as larger Orange County. And then we'll go a little bit further away to the surrounding cities that are a little bit beyond Orange County and all of the fun things that you can go do that take a little bit more of a little traveling, but are still very accessible for our students. Then we'll chat about how do you get around, kind of those logistics. Do you need a car? You are allowed to have a car, but you don't need one, spoiler alert, but we'll chat a little bit more about all those transportation options once we get down there. And then, as I mentioned, we'll have that live Q&A as well. So please feel free to save any questions for that, or again, ask them in the chat as we go along. Just to give you an overview of where our students are coming from, about 9% of our students are coming from within a 10-mile radius, so very close by to campus, our local students there. Then if you zoom out a little bit more, I usually say this as kind of our SoCal stat, about 40% of our students are coming from within Southern California, so within that 100-mile radius. Obviously, California is a very big state, so Northern California can feel like a different state. So that's kind of why we break it up by mileage as opposed to in-state versus out of state, because obviously if you're looking at the West Coast versus the East Coast, in-state versus out-of-state means a lot of different things depending on distance. So from over 100 miles away, about 60% of our students are coming. So you have about 22.7% that are within 500 miles, and then about 40% that are beyond 500 miles. So you really do have students coming from all over, including all over the nation, but also all over the world. So I usually say about that 60% of students are coming from outside of Southern California. We have all 50 states represented on campus, which is really exciting. So hopefully you meet someone from every state while you're here. I know as an out-of-state student myself, that was a big comfort knowing that, yes, I might be switching coasts and going on the opposite side of the country, but there's so many people who are also coming from different areas, and I'm not alone at all as an out-of-state student. And it's also just a really exciting part of your experience getting to meet people from all over. So I love that we have representation from all of our different states. We also have representation from 86 different countries on campus. So even beyond meeting people from across the nation, you will hopefully get to meet people from all across the world. So for all of my out-of-state students that are joining us today, know that you have a really strong community and that there are students coming from truly all over. At the end of the day, we're also all in a completely new experience. So whether you're coming from 10 miles or whether you're coming from over 500 miles, you're in this whole new experience together. And I feel like there's a great sense of camaraderie that comes with that freshman year of college. So then moving on to kind of what is there to do that's close by? We're in the city of Orange. So personally, as an out-of-state student, I didn't know the city of Orange existed. I knew of Orange County, but right in the middle of it is that city of Orange itself, which is where we're located. And I will let Ryan chat a little bit more about what there is to do in that surrounding area. So Ryan, feel free to take it away. You're muted, Ryan.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Starting off with nearby, Old Town Orange is within walking distance from campus. So whether you've brought your car or not, this is something that's very accessible to every single kind of student. There are so many different coffee shops, Contra being pictured right there in that little bubble, one of my favorites. Lots of different study spots. Sometimes Contra holds like thrifting, but there's also other places you can go thrifting in Old Town, which we like to refer to a little bit kind of colloquially as the Circle, as lots of our students like to call it. Lots of really cool restaurants of lots of different cuisines. You can find Mexican food, lots of ramen, dumplings in the spot, sushi. I know there's Thai food also in the Circle as well, pizza, really anything. And so there's lots of really cool ways to study. There's a little park in the middle of the Circle. If you visited campus, then you may have seen it. If not, I definitely recommend you visit Old Town Orange right after your tour, so you can really see this kind of really close-knit area. But kind of moving on from Old Town Orange and getting a little bit further from campus, there's a lot of different employment opportunities. And you could seek employment in the Circle. Some places do. But like me and Christina, there's tons of opportunities to be an on-campus employee, working in admission. It's honestly one of my favorite parts. I love the school a lot. And honestly, if I didn't, I would not be in this job here today. So you can definitely do on-campus employment almost, or maybe not almost, but almost every department here on campus has some form of student worker. I have a friend who works in student engagement just upstairs above our office. I have a friend who works for financial aid. So really lots of ways that you can be employed on campus, utilizing that work study award, which is also something that's available for students. International students are also able to work on campus as well. And then, like I said, Old Town Orange is also within walking distance. So you don't need to have a car as well when it comes to kind of working on or near campus as well. That's always really cool. I think Steele used to work at the Starbucks near campus. And then someone else I know works at Phil's, which is one of those coffee shops in Orange. But moving on one more time to the next kind of nearby attractions. You can see Disneyland. Disneyland is 6 miles away. Lots of students like to go to Disneyland all the time. You can see and hear the Disneyland fireworks at 9:30 every night from campus, which is something that's really cool. Lots of students have a pass. I just bought a pass last week. I'm going right after this, actually, a little bit later. It's about a 10-minute drive away to 20 minutes if there's traffic. but really it's not far at all. It's really accessible via public transportation as well. So you're really connected. And if you opt to Uber, it's a cheap Uber as well because it's not too far. Knott's Berry Farm is a little bit farther away than Disneyland. It's in Buena Park. It's a really cool amusement park. It has a little bit more kind of thrill seeker vibe, if that's what you're looking for, with a lot of really cool roller coasters, with what you can see in that picture right there. They also do some really cool Halloween events called Knott's Scary Farm. It's kind of like the rival to Universal Studios' Halloween Horror Nights. A little bit closer to the Knott's Berry Farm is going to be Angel Stadium. That's right near some of our off-campus student apartments, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the presentation. But Angel Stadium is home to a variety of really cool events that include baseball, mostly baseball. It's a home of the Anaheim, or now the Los Angeles Angels. But it's a really cool way to go ahead and see a baseball game for quite cheaply. And so it's a really great way to get out with your friends and to kind of experience a really nice kind of vibe. There's also a ton of other events that happen in there as well. And then we also have the Honda Center. The Honda Center is actually almost across the street diagonally from Angel Stadium. Honda Center is also another special event venue, which is really great. Lots of really cool concerts and other events happen here. That's also where the Anaheim Ducks hockey plays there as well. So some more sporting options as well. But I know concerts include, at least last year, Doja Cat was, I think, performed in there last fall or spring. I forget when exactly, but lots of really cool artists like to come to the area as well. But this is just Orange County. Looking a little bit more on the broader spectrum, going a little bit further out, there's lots of really cool shopping also. So you can see, starting going locally, you'll find the Orange Homegrown Markets. This happens right next to our Dodge College, so it's right on campus, and it's every Saturday. I believe it's from like 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. And so it's really, really nice. They have a ton of fruit juices, like pizzas that people make. It's just really way to kind of shop sustainably. If you really care about the environment, you can shop locally and sustainably, which is something that's pretty cool. Save the earth. But also the South Side Market, which is also just a few blocks from campus as well. Ralph's is 1 mile away. In fact, our campus shuttle can take you there over on the weekends on request, which is also really great. And then Target is about 4 miles away as well. So that's also something that's really great, and that you'll always really have access to. You can also find the Orange Outlets. That's about 3 miles away. It's a little bit down the street from Angel Stadium. If you're kind of picturing a map in your head, the Orange Outlets have a ton of really cool shopping places, including some movie theaters. So if we have any people that are interested in the film industry and want to see movies, this is going to be one of your local theaters, AMC 30, that's located right in the Orange Outlets. So that's really nearby. Lots of really cool deals there as well. So if you're a really big fan of saving money, the Orange Outlets are a good way to go. But South Coast Plaza also isn't too far. That's about 9 miles down the 55 freeway, if you're familiar with the area. And so they have a ton of really cool shopping and dining venues as well. There's a Din Tai Fung over in South Coast Plaza. There's also one now at Downtown Disney. So that those two are your most local ones. We also have the Lab. That's about 10 miles away, so a little bit further. And then we also have the Irvine Spectrum. And Irvine Spectrum is a little bit farther from campus. I believe it's about 13 miles. And so they have a ton of shopping and dining places. I cannot stress enough. You cannot get bored there, I'd say. So really accessible, really great places. The Irvine Spectrum is accessible by train as well. And so a little bit later, we'll talk about transportation in just a moment. But that's the next slide. So here we go. If you need a car, about a third of our students, that's about 33.3 of our students, do bring a car their first year. Now, of course, later on down the road, some students might decide to bring it a little bit later. But on your first year, I don't think it's too imperative or too crucial to have a car. I think the area is really a great way to explore on your own, even if you don't have a car as well. You also don't have to pay anything to park on campus. All you have to do is register your car with your parking permit, which is through the Department of Public Safety. You can register a few cars onto your parking permit. For example, I also have my parents's, so they can come and visit me at any time, which is really great. But that's about cars. Now, talking more about public transportation in the area, next, there's a ton of really cool options. So I'm a big fan of the train. I live, like I said, in Riverside. That's connected through Metrolink, which has a station right here in Orange. It's also right next to our Dodge College, along right next to that farmers market area. So it's practically on campus, that train station. And students currently ride for free, pending a program that they offer. But they also have a ton of really cool discounts on the train as well for students. And you can go as far north into LA. You can also go further up into Ventura if that's as far as you want to go. You can go as far east as San Bernardino, or from where I'm from Riverside, a little bit further east that way. And then you can go all the way down towards San Diego as well. There's also another really cool train option called Amtrak. It's the Pacific Surfliner. It runs up and down the coast, servicing all the way from San Diego to San Luis Obispo. And so that's also a really cool way to kind of go ahead and explore the area if you don't have a car. Several beach stops along the way. You can visit the beaches of Oceanside, San Clemente. The Surfliner also stops at more beaches as well. And so that's always a really good way. Over the summer, while I worked here on campus, I saved a ton of gas by taking the train 5 days a week. So quite a big advocate for that. As well. You can also rent a car with Zipcar, which is something that you're able to do as a student, which is something that's really great. If you don't quite have your own car on campus at the time yet, but that's another really cool way that you're also able to get out. You also have the ART Transit, which is the Anaheim Resort Transit. So this is within the Anaheim Resort area. So that's kind of that Angel Stadium area. Goes all the way towards Disneyland, Angel Stadium, this sort of Platinum Triangle neighborhood of Anaheim that we like to kind of call it. Students ride for free on that transit as well. Orange County Bus, OC Bus, which is managed by Okta, also offers lots of free discount programs for students, or free rides altogether. So really great ways. I already mentioned the Chapman Shuttle. It can take you to Ralph's. It can take you to some of our off-campus housing. So our upperclassmen live in apartments, and they're able to choose if they want to live right here on campus in Orange, or if they want to go just a few miles out, they can go ahead and take the shuttle. On weekdays, it's has interviews of typically about, or intervals of about 10 to 15 minutes each way. So you're quite connected to campus, which is always something that's really great. But if you choose to drive, you can do so as well. You can also bike. A ton of people bike around here. It's a really nice, quaint little area. In my opinion, I kind of like how walkable and bikeable and kind of cozy the area is. And then you can also have bike fix-it stations on campus. You can go ahead and fix your bike if there's something wrong with it. But you do have to register your bike with the Department of Public Safety. They'll also give you a bike lock free of charge as well. But now let's talk about the weather. Now, this is famous sunny Southern California. We have 277 sunny days out of the year. Very rarely, or not rarely, but it doesn't often rain here. When it does, it's just a sprinkle. And everyone, I'm pretty sure maybe Christina or Steele can agree with this. Everyone kind of loses their mind when it rains because we're not quite used to it at all. And so I'm one of those people that lose their mind. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's raining. Like, this is so cool. It's like a holiday, honestly. It's like skip class. I mean, don't actually skip class, but it's like my version of a snow day if a rain day were to exist. But out of the 365-day calendar, like I said, 277 days of the year, it is quite sunny. We're also quite close to the beach. Our nearest beach is Newport Beach. We're about 15 miles away from there. So it's a little bit further than the spectrum, but that's straight down the 55 freeway. Like I said, if you're familiar with the area or the kind of map that we're on. So it's a straight shot all the way down to Balboa Peninsula. But lots of students like to venture up and down the coast. You can go all the way south to Laguna. Some people go as far south as San Diego and go to the beaches of La Jolla. And some people go as far north as like Malibu and Santa Monica, like I said. But our nearest beach, like I said, is Newport. It can take you about 20 minutes to go over there. I was just there yesterday, actually. I sadly got a parking ticket, so please pay for your parking unless you'll be $80 in debt like I am now. But yeah, really cool. And then snow is just an hour away. So if you're like Christina and you're from Colorado, maybe you want some snow, you can go snowboarding or skiing, and that's not too far in the San Bernardino National Forest.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Ryan. I feel like you just alluded perfectly to what I'm so excited to talk about. So, as an out-of-state person, I was so driven to explore California over the past 3 years. So, I feel like I've really touched on everything that's like further away. So, I'm super excited to kind of get into it. So, number one, being from Colorado, I'm so passionate about outdoor activities, whether that be going to the beach, because if you don't know, Colorado does not have a beach. I was really excited to possibly learn how to go surfing, things like that. I've gotten to stand up on the board once in the past 3 years, so I think I'm doing pretty well actually. But same thing, being from Colorado, wanted to go hiking, camping, skiing. There's so many different options for you to do that, whether it be on your own or with clubs at Chapman, which I love. The Outdoors Club, which actually one of my best friends is the president of. She organizes hikes once a month as well as two large camping trips to places like Joshua Tree or just local beach areas where they're allowed to kind of have those campgrounds or bonfires, which I think is really unique. There's also the Surf Club and Snow Club, which are available for you. So if you're really excited and want to kind of dive into those outdoor activities, you're able to kind of get into places with either a discounted rate or like a group rate, as well as people of all different levels. So if you want to be a beginner, like I was learning how to surf, you can join Surf Club and you're going to have people who have been doing it for their whole lives kind of there to hold your hand with you. So it's a really great way to not only get involved on campus, but also just explore those things that you're passionate about, which is kind of what I found. Also dealing with kind of what's nearby is Los Angeles. I do want to pass this off to Steele because I feel like he just knows everything about LA. The two things I will point out about this though is that I did picnic in the Griffith Observatory, which was incredible. If you've never seen a picture of it, I encourage you to look it up. It is beautiful, it's breathtaking, and it just makes you feel like you're in the middle of nature, as well as Universal Studios. I'm a big amusement park fan. I was so jealous when Ryan told me that he got his Disney pass because I didn't know anyone else who was getting one, so I didn't get one. So Ryan, I will be joining you. But Universal Studios also super easy drive. Me and my roommates, if we're going to Los Angeles, we make a giant kind of LA day. We normally try La La Land coffee, and then we go to Universal Studios for a little bit, and then it's anywhere from like 3 hours to 8 hours to get there and back. So we normally make a day out of it. But still, anything to add?
Yeah, I was just gonna say I was looking at this list and I'm actually getting kind of close to checking off everything, which is really exciting. My last ones are the Hollywood Bowl and SoFi. I almost went up to the Dolphins Rams game this past Monday because I'm surprisingly a huge Dolphins fan, but I did not make it. So still SoFi I need to check off. But there's so much to do and it's really easy to get up there. I'm going to a Sabrina Carpenter concert up there this next Monday. So I'm very excited for that. That's at Crypto Center. So that's going to be super fun. But there's always concerts. It's really nice being so close to LA because obviously when artists are touring or when you want to see a sporting game or you just are ever bored, you have a bunch of options for you. So there's always stuff going on in LA. There's also always stuff going on in Orange County. I've seen a lot of great concerts here too. Saw the Jonas Brothers. I saw Tove Lo. So there's fun things happening all around. But if you want to be able to go to concerts and see your favorite team play, odds are they're coming through either Los Angeles or Orange County. So it's really nice being here and then also having access to everything going on in LA as well. So lots to explore for sure.
Awesome. Well, I actually just did a San Diego trip a few weekends ago. We went to La Jolla and like the Gaslamp District. So another really big thing that I feel like most out-of-staters do, or even just people from California who haven't gotten a chance to explore everything nearby, is to check out San Diego. It's a pretty typical hour drive. You're not really getting that Los Angeles traffic. So that's why me and my roommates personally love it. But there's just so many things to do, whether that be just to go wander around the La Jolla Cove. There's actually a cave there as well that you can kind of visit. It's located in the shop that's like an overhang. And then there's options to picnic, grab ice cream, grab food kind of around there, as well as the San Diego Zoo. Oh my goodness. I've been on the wait list to pet the penguins for the past 3 years. I'm finally like number 30. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I get to do that before I graduate. But just tons of different opportunities, whether that be you want to just grab some food or kind of explore. I loved San Diego. But with that, there's a few more other things nearby. Catalina Island, this is another big thing. There's actually a Chapman class over interterm that will take you to Catalina Island, which is really nice if you kind of want to get a domestic study abroad kind of thing. But once again, 90-minute drive, you do have to take a ferry to get there, but it's beautiful, especially for all of our nature lovers. Speaking of nature lovers as well, Joshua Tree is a big destination for a lot of our Chapman students, whether it be to camp, sometimes there's concerts there, or just to kind of like get away for the weekend, explore, hike. Everyone loves Joshua Tree, and it is one of the largest national parks out there. So if you ever get the chance to kind of drive by it, it will take over your entire map screen. It's actually absurd how large it is. Same with Big Bear. If you're like me, you're kind of craving that snowboarding, skiing kind of atmosphere. It's easy 2 hour drive, and there are discounts normally for Chapman students, college students in general. So I really like to take advantage of that. And then Las Vegas, which is personally one of my favorite places to go, not for all the craziness of the lights and everything, but they actually have a racetrack nearby where you can race really nice cars. So it's kind of a little bit different of a vibe depending on what you want to do and like get out of Vegas, but it is 4 hours and you can always kind of go towards it, whether that means with sorority and fraternity formals, or sometimes there's even national conferences that are held there if you're doing research, things like that. So tons of nearby cities to explore.
I also wanted to jump back in and just chat about some of the professional opportunities that we have. I feel like we've spent a lot of time talking about all of the super fun things that you can do, but also with all of that comes a ton of professional opportunities too. So Orange County is the sixth largest county in the nation. We are home to over 85,000 different businesses, and we really have a career first mentality for our students. We want students to be graduating from us with career experience under their belt, with easy access to the job market and a really strong alumni network. So we're situated in a really good spot to do that and prepare our students really well. For our health sciences students, for example, we are right next to the Children's Hospital of Orange County. For our performers, we are right next to Disneyland. We have so many opportunities for all of our students, regardless of the area of study that they're in. And we really emphasize that hands-on learning. So this slide just shows you a few of the companies that our students are either currently interning with or where our alums are working. So you'll see you have access to a pretty incredible alumni network here at Chapman, and a large piece of that is due to our location and being just so close in proximity to all of these huge companies. A lot of our students will do internships here in Orange County or in LA, and with LA, it's really easy to get up there. Our Metro Link will take you right into the heart of LA in 45 minutes flat. As Ryan mentioned, big train fan. A lot of students work through that train system. They use that to get up to their internships. So that makes it really accessible for students to get internships and get them even a little further away. And a lot of students kind of build their schedule around having maybe Tuesday, Thursday to just be their days to be at their internship, and then they take classes Monday, Wednesday. So you have some flexibility with your schedule, and a lot of professors really want to help you make sure that they're working around and getting that professional experience for you. So having just all of these companies in our backyard is a huge advantage that we have for our students. Lastly, I just wanted to chat a little bit about living off campus. Ryan alluded to our off-campus housing earlier as well, so wanted to dive a little bit deeper into what those options looked like. We have obviously our dorms on campus, but those are just for your freshman year. So then where are you living after that? We have a ton of options for you. So we have a 3-year living requirement for our students. That can be waived for any students coming within a 30-mile radius. But other than that, our students will live with us for 3 years. Our sophomores and juniors will live in our student apartments, while our freshmen will live in our dorms. Student apartments run a pretty wide range in terms of location and size. So if you want to stay right on campus and be right in that residence life area, right by the dorms, you can stay there. We have a bunch of student apartment options available there. So you can stay super close to campus, make everything super accessible. Or if you want a little bit more independence, you want to get that kind of off-campus experience, then you can live in our on-campus apartments. They're on campus, but really they're up to about a 10-minute drive away. The picture here is our Chapman Court, which is our newest student apartment building. It just opened for our students this year, so it is brand new. You can see here that it is quite nice. It is old luxury apartments built for working professionals that Chapman bought and turned into student housing. So they are truly designed for young adults, but our students are very lucky and we treat them very well. So we want them to get that independent living experience with Chapman Court, as well as Chapman Grand, Panther Village. Those are going to be those more off-campus living options, and they very much are apartment style. So Chapman Grand, for example, is a stunning building. A lot of my friends lived there while I was here at Chapman. It was one of the very popular ones because it was pre-Chapman Court as well. But those apartments are so nice. They have in-unit laundry, they have islands in the kitchen, walk-in closets. It's like far too nice for a college student to be living in, but we're very lucky here. So we have really good facilities for our students there. As Ryan also mentioned, we have that shuttle system, so it'll take students between all of these buildings. So even if you want to live in one of these off-campus apartments, you absolutely can, even if you don't have a car, because that shuttle system will still get you to and from campus, and it runs pretty consistently throughout the day. So it's very easy for students to still live in these apartments, whether or not you have a car. So don't feel like that is a requirement. But we want our students to get that sense of independent living. So know that you have these options for that sophomore and junior year. A lot of our seniors also choose to stay in these apartments as well. But at that point, it is no longer required. So another popular option is getting a house in the surrounding neighborhood of campus. That's what I did my senior year. It was super fun. I loved just having my own space and having a whole little yard and everything. So that's a nice option for our seniors as well. So you have a bit of independence there with that sophomore through senior year. And then I think we are ready for the Q&A. So I see we already have a few great questions in the chat that we wanted to answer live. I'm very excited that there's a lot of East Coast representation. I work specifically with students from the Mid-Atlantic, so like Pennsylvania down through Virginia. Growing up in Virginia myself, obviously close place in my heart there. But I see we have some questions from Pennsylvania and DC. So I want to start with those ones. For our students in general coming from over 500 miles, what is kind of the biggest challenge or hurdle that you've experienced? Christina, I'll let you start off with this one.
I feel like this is a kind of typical answer, but I think it was like kind of the homesickness and like really figuring out a new place for myself. What I personally loved about Chapman is that in Orange, it's like a very like community oriented place to live where like every single time I go on some sort of trip or even come back from Colorado, I just feel like I'm coming home because the community is just like it's a bunch of um just different kind of ages all around, and like Chapman is an open campus, so you do kind of see the Orange residents walking to and from. So I feel like that kind of in itself made me a little bit less homesick, but I feel like that was the biggest thing for me. But to kind of jump over that hurdle as well, just because Chapman's like a community, and like if you get involved, like I was on the women's soccer team or working for the Office of Admission, for example, that really helped. But also just in the back of my mind, knowing that John Wayne Airport is 15 minutes away, and if something were to happen, I could get home so easily if I needed to. So I don't know. I feel like it's always kind of the homesickness, but yeah, getting involved and knowing John Wayne's there for you, I feel like really helped with me.
Yeah, I feel like I have to always give a huge shout out to John Wayne when I'm talking about the airport, not the person, when I'm talking about coming as an out-of-state student, because I feel like a lot of people have the fear of LAX, and John Wayne is the nicest, easiest airport in the world and literally so close to campus. So it is a lifesaver if you can ever fly into John Wayne. I absolutely recommend it over LAX because it's just so convenient. Security is like 5 minutes. But this is also, I think, a great segue into Jessica's question about Thanksgiving break too. Having John Wayne so close by and having elongated breaks really makes it easy to go home for the holidays. I went home for pretty much every Thanksgiving and every holiday break as well. So as an out-of-state student, I was flying back to Richmond, and it was still enough time where I really had time to settle down, be with family, and not feel like I was just flying in, being there for like a day or two, and then heading back because we do get that full week-long break, which is really helpful. Anything to add for just the holiday breaks, either Christina or Ryan?
I feel like if you communicate with your professors as well, like some of my professors will cancel classes like the Friday before break. It's not like crazy typical, but if you're talking to your professors and you're like, look, I'm an out-of-state kid, I need to like go home early. I've had professors really work with me to like move the test to like a Thursday instead of a Friday. So that way I could get like a cheaper flight home and be able to like work with it. So I guess like as long as you're kind of like transparent about what you need, and like especially if you're gonna be like double flight or like you don't want to take like a red eye flight or you just have reasons you need to get home, working with your professors, like especially over like the breaks and stuff, it becomes really easy. So I don't know. I feel like that's so unique that you get to build that relationship with your professors where they're like, okay, yeah, no problem. I totally get it.
Awesome. I see a question about students living on campus or in their own apartment senior year. So yes, students can have that option. There's no requirement when it comes to your senior year. So you can live in our Chapman housing, or you can choose to live off campus if you'd like. Christina and Ryan, any comments about what you're seeing a lot of your friends doing if you have friends who are currently seniors?
I mean, as a senior myself, I do live with five other gals who actually, one of them is my freshman year roommate, and then two are some girls that live down the hall from us. So it's kind of funny, little 4 years spent together type thing. Personally, though, I wish that the 3 year living requirement would have been in place during my all 4 years at Chapman, just because sometimes it is a little bit harder to get into the houses because it is a smaller town. So it's very like hard to get those opportunities, especially because coming from Colorado, California is pricey, man, like being so honest. But I would say like honestly, if I could, I would totally go back to Chapman Grand. It was a really great year. It was super convenient. Like it had everything I needed. That in-unit washer and dryer Steele talked about was my personal favorite thing. That's how I know I'm getting older. But yeah, I feel like it's kind of half and half, and it really depends on like the availability of like the neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, I live in Chapman Court, which Steele showed a little bit earlier ago, and I know a lot of other people who live there as well. But I also know quite a few seniors also who do decide to live, off campus in like a house. Like in Christina's situation, I know, and Christina knows we have a coworker named Francesca who lives nearby as well, and so there's lots of really cool things. A lot of students like to have that off-campus experience, but if you really want to have that all encompassing, transportation where you don't have to worry about, driving to a house of any sort, then you're able to have that on campus housing is still available for you your senior year. If transportation is still something that you need covered or something as well. And so it's really great to still have that option your senior year. But if you really want a lot more independence, you're really able to do so. So it's up to you in that aspect. So I kind of like that flexibility.
I see a few questions about internship opportunities, a few specific areas, so psychology, health sciences, or criminal science. Um, do either of you want to talk about any specific intern opportunities that either you've been able to take advantage of related to those areas, or if you have any friends that have taken advantage of internship or kind of professional development opportunities in those areas?
I can start. So, as a health sciences student, I was really fortunate to get an internship at the UCI Douglas Hospital, which is about like a 10-minute drive from Chapman's campus. Through that, I was really exposed to like firsthand patient care. I was shadowing doctors, I was helping out nurses, and I could work anywhere from 6 to 8 hours per week. It was really nice because I got to like kind of format my own schedule, but I did have to apply and it was really hard. I did have to get some letters of recommendations from my teachers, but the ones who did write my letters of recommendation were also the ones who recommended that I try the internship. I've also had lots of friends who have done not only domestic internships, but I had a friend who was in Lisbon for the entire summer and she was part of this marketing program. And Chapman does really well with our Center of Global Education as well as our career office to like really demonstrate that there's so many internships available, whether it be local to Orange or somewhere else you want to go. She actually got a return offer. Yay. So she gets to go back to Lisbon. She's so excited. And I have another friend who worked for Travis Matthew as well as Cisco. So tons of crazy stuff that's kind of like in our backyard, not just in terms of health sciences, but all different majors.
Ryan, do you have any experiences you want to chat about or any friends that you know who've been in those subject areas?
Yeah, so in terms of those particular subject areas, Christina's the closest person that I know to that. Um, I'm a broadcast journalism major, so 90% of our of students in my major intern with NBC Universal in Universal City, and so that is a huge and very popular internship program that I'm currently in the process of applying to right now as a sophomore for next summer in 2025. So that's quite exciting. Lots of students do that as well, but some other students also have internships over in Studio City for Paramount, CBS, or for ABC, which is owned by the Walt Disney Company. So, in terms of kind of like that television side of internships, lots of students take advantage of that kind of network of alumni that we have as well, which is also really strong. Whether that's through like our Panther network or through really career services and our online portal called Handshake. Handshake, I like to call, is a much more localized version of LinkedIn, where it's Chapman students and employers hiring kind of Chapman first. And so you're really able to kind of go ahead and find where they'll have a section with like Chapman's pick of what's popular among Chapman students and where many Chapman alums currently work or have interned in the past. And so a lot of people have utilized Handshake. I'm a political science minor, so I've applied to internships on there too. It's a really great way to kind of go ahead and find a lot of local but also nearby opportunities as well. I also know someone who did an internship in New York City for a PR company last summer as well. So it's a really great network that you're able to have for professional development in that sense.
Yeah, I'd say there's definitely a big emphasis on that hands-on learning, whether it is internship work or research or volunteer work. One of my majors was political science. So I, for example, interned on a congressional campaign while I was a student. I also worked for an independent political and news reporting outlet. So some really cool opportunities that came there. But I also was really heavily involved in research. So that's going to be a really popular option for students as well. We are an R2 institution, so top 10% of research institutions and pretty much any discipline you're in will have research opportunities. It's not just those hard sciences that you might think of. Within my major in communication, I did research on dating apps and kind of the effects on mental health. So that was a really interesting kind of niche topic that I was just interested in. I had a really good relationship with one of my professors, and she was doing similar research, so I started working with her. But know that there's a lot of kind of flexibility and opportunity to take advantage of professional development opportunities, both in internships or research work, or also that volunteer work too. So it comes in a lot of different forms. Um, Great question about classes and clubs taking advantage of our location and travel. We do have a lot of courses that will implement travel into that coursework, as well as kind of work in the local area. So, Christina or Ryan, have you had any of those experiences, and do you want to chat about them?
Oh yeah, 100%. I know I kind of already mentioned it previously in talking about like what's nearby, but the outdoors club, especially like going on the hikes nearby, just having somebody who's kind of like that point person to organize everything is great. Same with snow club, surf club, like going to the mountains with a bunch of people is so enjoyable. But there's also things like Chapman Thrift who do like thrift crawls where they like go through a bunch of thrift stores all together, or I know there's like a Disney club, like Club 55, correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan. Um, and like Star Wars Club that will take advantage of like going to like the parks nearby. So I feel like there's a lot in kind of terms of that. Anything to add, Ryan?
Oh yeah, definitely in that sense. There's also some clubs that travel for like professional development reasons. For example, for sports broadcasting, they were invited to Angel Stadium to tour their in-house broadcasting center for the screens and the like the Megatron you kind of see during games. That all has an entire production crew behind it. So we were invited Angel Stadium and to the Honda Center to go view how they do the what we call in-house broadcasting. And then they were also invited to Fox Los Angeles to go see how Fox, their like kind of LA bureau, broadcasts news, which in some ways, or in lots of ways actually, are similar to sports. So definitely take advantage of the area that way. So you can travel for fun, like the outdoors club and things like that. Or you can be involved in some professional clubs as well. And then as Christina talked about earlier, some places go to like, or some clubs go to places like Las Vegas and for conferences and things of that nature. I know Computer Science Club will go to, they have like this coding competition somewhere in the country. And so they have really cool opportunities like that. So it's really all about kind of what you're involved in. And lots of times that leads to other places. And so definitely lots of opportunities to explore that way.
Amazing. Any other questions that we can help answer? I want to give us just a quick second for any others to come through. Also know that we are always accessible. So if you think of a question right after this ends, know that you can always reach out to us. You can either reach out to your counselor directly, or you can reach out to admit@chapman.edu and we can answer your questions there. So don't hesitate to reach out. But final call for questions. Love
Or
it.
ask a student. Go to our
Or
website,
ask a
ask a
student.
student. Look for my face and Ryan's face. You can text us.
Um, Great question from Renee. What do you like least about living in Orange? Christine, I'll let you start if you want.
I feel like there's two kind of answers for this. Number one is not being able to do everything. I feel like that's just like so hard. There's just so many opportunities, especially in the circle. It's been my goal to try every single restaurant within there, but they keep on bringing new ones in. So I feel like it's going to be impossible. But on like a different note, sometimes I just feel like parking all around is really difficult. Just like getting into the circle, or if you wake up a few minutes late to campus, you're not going to get your prime parking spot. But I feel like that's just something that everyone complains about no matter what.
Yeah, with the parking, I agree. Sometimes I just opt to leave my car on campus and then walk a couple blocks to the circle, because that's easier than finding parking. But honestly, with Orange, I mean, I'm from the Southern California area, but where I'm from is not. It's quite different, and I love it in its own way as well. But it's a lot different from Orange, and so I really do like Orange. It's kind of hard to find things to complain about, especially when you know so many random quirks. So, for example, Orange County actually has a large population of wild parrots, and so if you're ever walking around and you hear like screaming, it's like these birds in the sky. And I did a whole news project on it last year where I had to like wake up at the crack of dawn to go film these parrots and then be back at sunset to go film their migration back to the trees. And so that was one of my favorite projects. But like when you know a lot of these cool quirks, Orange becomes a really special place. So I don't have a lot, but like I said, parking is a little difficult a lot of the time. But I mean, yeah, other than that, I really like it. It's a really nice little quiet. It's kind of magical, really, not to sound all kind of cringy or Disney-ish, but it is a kind of little fairy tale. Like you see the houses and it looks like a cottage from Snow White so much of the time. So it's a really nice area.
Thanks. A couple good questions about athletics here at Chapman. Christina, I'll let you take this one away as one of our resident student athletes. But what would you say that athletic culture is like here?
Honestly, I feel like it's really, really good in the fact that at Division 3, it's not that you're like worse than Division 1. I hate when people say that. It drives me insane because frankly, a lot of Division 1 teams and Division 3 teams could be swapped in divisions. But I like that it's really student focused. And it was one of like the biggest things that drew me to Chapman in general was that I could study what I wanted to study. I could have an on-campus job. I could start doing volunteer work and clinical opportunities and internships. Like there's just so much going on with that, but also all your student athletes are in the same boat. So we're constantly going to each other's games. Like I know the men's soccer team always comes to the women's soccer team and starts chirping, it's really funny. But also like I met my best friends who are on the swim team and I go to their meets. I even drove up to their national conference and like made signs for them. There's just like there's school spirit that's represented and like manifested in tons of different ways. But I felt like in the athletic community, especially, is because we all kind of have the same goal of being the best student and best athlete we could be. It was just like the perfect balance that we all really support each other.
Um, I also see a question from Jessica about how we deal with the weather that is very different from our home states. I will be totally honest, weather was one of the reasons I wanted to come to California. No slander to the DMV area. I love it there. But I am not someone who does well in the cold. So I knew I wanted to go somewhere where it was warmer, and also where I could be closer to the beach and be able to access that through more of the year. So that was a huge kind of pull for me. I feel like when I go home now, I feel like such a wimp because I get cold so easily. Um, but I have found it to be quite an easy adjustment because it is so just temperate here. It never really gets super extreme. The humidity, I would say, is one of the biggest differences coming from the East Coast. On a hot summer day on the East Coast, you walk outside and it feels like you're swimming. But here it's a bit drier of a heat and you get that nice sea breeze, so it doesn't get quite as hot. So it's just a little bit more temperate. I feel like it was pretty easy for me to adjust. Um, but yeah, Christina, what was your experience like?
I loved it too. I personally love that I'll go home for Thanksgiving in 2 weeks and I'm gonna experience my snow for a little bit, then come back and it'll be warm. I will say too, it's a big pull for my parents on sending me here because my dad is an avid golfer and he looks for every opportunity to say, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go visit Christina." No, he just actually comes and golfs here. So I will say like that was a big pull. I do like that you can experience all different types of weather though here because if I do miss the mountains, I'm able to go to Big Bear, Mammoth, things like that. But it does we do kind of get like a little fall chill, which I think is really nice. But mostly it is sunny and that makes me happy. And I'm sure Steele agrees with that, which is another big pull for me. Definitely the weather.
Yeah, we've all got our sweaters on today, so it still does we get seasons still. Don't believe the lies. But also it is such a huge parent pull. I think both my siblings went closer to home, but I think my mom came out and visited me like twice as much as them just because she wanted to be in California. Um, Greek life on campus, that is something we have not chatted a ton about. But do either of you want to chat a little bit about Greek life and what that presence is like on campus? Brian, do you want to start?
Yeah, I just didn't want to. I didn't know if Christina was going to talk first. Yeah, so Greek life has a really, I'd say, a really good presence here on campus. It has a really good high involvement rate. It's higher than the national average. About 26% of our undergraduate students are part of one of our 10 sororities or 8 fraternities. There's so many different events that they do. For example, one of our largest Greek life events is called Air Bands. That just happened last weekend, and they have a huge turnout every single year. And by buying a ticket and supporting, donating, buying merch, you're donating towards their cause. And so Greek life here at Chapman is very philanthropy based. And so for Air Bands, that event that I told you happened last weekend, they were fundraising towards Girls on the Run, which is a excuse me, empowering girls and young women through the action of running, which is something that's pretty cool. And so we always like to say here on campus, it's a presence, not a pressure. So you're able to kind of go ahead and be involved if you would like to. But I'm not involved in it and I've never felt pressure. I have gone to several of those Greek life events and they're a ton of fun. So really big campus kind of bonding events, I'd say I'd go to call it. And so you're definitely able to go ahead and still get your fix for philanthropy, community, things like that. But you're definitely not pressured and you're not ostracized for it. So really inclusive to students who want to do it. If you want to do it, it's there. That's great. But if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. And there's nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah, I kind of have the same take as Ryan. I do have quite a few friends who are involved in sororities. I myself am not in that, but I'm actually part of our professional fraternity system. So I'm part of the Tri Beta Biological Honor Society. What a mouthful. Where it's a little bit more towards professional development and research, which I think is really nice. I'm actually attending a conference, in the American Chemical Society, and I get to give like an oral presentation as well as a poster and I felt like being within this like group of like-minded people, we're constantly like bouncing ideas off each other, learning from other people's experiences, internships, programs like that. So there is kind of like that link to Greek life, but also even if you're not involved in Greek life, like Ryan said, the air bands last weekend, hilarious. Oh my God. Like I watched a few of my friends absolutely make fools of themselves on stage, and then my other friends who are like within the dance program just absolutely kill it. So there's like opportunities for you to do that, to go to like the formals and dances. I've gone to a few of the formals as like my girlfriend's dates. Like it's so fun. So there's tons of different options. And there is a presence of it, which I like because that really is something good for people to do because dues are a lot lower than at other institutions who have that giant Greek row. So it really is more accessible at Chapman, but it's also like you don't have to be in it to like be involved. Like at least the rest of our students are involved in a club or a sport or things like that, where they still feel kind of included. And I don't know, I like that it's there. I like that I have friends who do it and like that it's for them, but don't worry about it if it's not for you.
And then last question here is coming in with a computer science major, will that be hard? Christina, as the closest person to a computer science major, our STEM representation, what do you think?
So I've taken two computer science classes at Chapman because I originally was interested in the video game development minor. No matter what major you're taking, it's going to be difficult at the college level, especially in like the STEM world, Ryan's world as well, broadcast journalism. I could never do what he's doing. Same with Steele on political science and global comm. Like, as long as you come in and you feel like you're ready to work hard at things, good things are going to come to you. What I particularly liked about the computer science programs were that the teachers were incredibly accessible. They have like really cool websites that either link videos to things that you need to do or like virtual textbooks that kind of give you these prompts. But there's also tutors available to you for free, which I think is so unique to like an institution where you could just walk in and say, hey, I really need help with computer science. And they'll either throw you in one-on-one, group style, classroom style. So there are avenues for you to kind of combat that. But I'd say like the biggest thing is coming in like with a great attitude, a study system, like being ready to learn is like the biggest thing in kind of those classes because it is extremely hands-on. Like everything that you do is hands-on in there and you really just learn by doing. I personally loved it. I made some really cool video games. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like everything's just hard. It's just really what your strengths are as a person as well.
Amazing. I'm going to close this out, and my final question to you both is going to be just one, what in general is your favorite part about living in Orange County? And then two, where is your favorite place to eat in Orange County?
I'll start. My absolute favorite thing about Orange County is going to be the weather. I really feel like that's a big thing. But on a serious note, definitely the community. I've had the privilege of meeting the mayor, and he is really people centric, which I think is so nice. He really is advocating for our students and our community as a whole. So I just feel like being part of that is amazing. And then for food, oh my gosh, this is so hard, Steele. Why would you give us this question? I would personally say probably Finney's. So if you're gonna tour, make sure you go to Finney's. I'm a huge fan of their raspberry lemonade. Um,
Awesome, Christina. Okay. If we're talking about favorite thing about living in Orange County, I love the proximity to everything and how we're quite central. I love how the beach is, 20 minutes away, and how LA is about an hour to, a little bit more than an hour away. So I just love how I'm right in the middle of everything. If we're talking about locally, my favorite spot to eat, there are a ton of places in the circle. There's like dumplings. I love the ramen place in the circle, especially how it's getting a little bit colder. For me, it's kind of like time to have ramen. And so I love that place. But if we're talking about in the greater Southern California area, my favorite place to eat is Grand Central Market in downtown Los Angeles. There's a ton of really cool restaurants there of all different cuisines that are even ranked by the LA Times for best in SoCal as well. So you can find several other restaurants on that list as well. So yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much. And thank you to everyone for coming. Again, if you have questions, please never hesitate to reach out to us. But thank you so much and have a great rest of your evening.